Okay, so hey everyone, it is February 13th. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow, if it matters to anybody. We're not a romantic family, it won't matter to us at all. But happy Valentine's Day anyway. This is the National Association of Christian Women Entrepreneurs. I'm Karen Lindfall-Borg, so happy to be here. We're doing things a little differently this year. Everyone who's in here kind of already knows that, so I won't take too much time. I will tell you, though, that I've had the privilege of coaching with Kadena probably several times, really. And I'm also going to just shoot straight from the hip. It's been one of the most painful and most blessed experiences of my life. And I was introduced to Kadena by Diane. So oftentimes, it's really easy for me to give a ton of credit to the success of NACWE, to Diane's success, and to my own success. I don't think I can speak for Diane here since I coached with her for many years and heard this over and over and over again, that a lot of the credit for the success of the National Association of Christian Women Entrepreneurs belongs to you. So thank you. It's always a pleasure to hear from you and to hang with you. And we were talking about different times that we were actually physically in each other's presence. When I asked Kadena to come and talk to us, I asked her pretty much, what's one of the most powerful game-changing tools you've used to grow your business? And we're talking about dreaming big, God-given dreams as entrepreneurs this month. So also as a dreamer. And I thought of her because I don't know of anyone who's stretched my dreams and my thinking, kind of stretched my borders any more than you have. So I appreciate you being here. I'm going to let you I'm going to pray us in, and then I'm going to let you go forward with your slides. And you guys, this will be an opportunity of a lifetime.
Thank you.
So let me pray us in. Father God, we're so grateful that you do give us dreams. I don't want dreams that aren't in line with your purposes for my life as everything, as a wife, as a mom, as a nana, as an entrepreneur, everything. So we pray, Lord, that as Kadena speaks to us today, you would help us to stretch our thinking and open our hearts to dreaming big dreams, especially dreams that you have given us, especially as entrepreneurs as well. I thank you for Kadena. I pray for healing for her mom who's sick right now. I pray for Kadena's efforts and entrepreneur endeavors this year. They're so unique and so different this year. I pray for her as she speaks to us, and for those who are listening in and who will listen in later, Lord, that you just expand our borders, enlarge our borders. What more could we ask for as we feel those borders and boundaries stretching? Would you allow us, please, to be a vessel that brings people to Christ and that brings them to great success in all ways as entrepreneurs? We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so the first thing that I want to say is I'm going to go through the entire presentation, and then so any questions that you have, put them inside of the NACWE group, and I will come back and answer every single question. Okay, now, if you ask me something that is like a 6-month coaching program type of question, I'll be very direct and say to you, I'll come back with a question to ask you about first steps. Because, there's sometimes we have a tendency, I was telling Karen prior to the call, I am a recovering perfectionist. And what I can tell you about perfectionism is that sometimes what you do is you overanalyze things and you kind of sit back and say, oh, that's a good idea. Well, give me another idea. Oh, that's a good idea. Give me another idea. So I'm really going to hold your feet to the fire for aligning action to the question. Okay. So I want you to really think about what area of your business do you really want to grow, and then ask the question in a way that helps to propel you at least a step forward. Okay, so we want to start where we are with what we have, trusting that all is well. So I'm going to open up my PowerPoint here, and we'll get started. I got to put on my glasses so that I can see. Can you see my screen okay? Karen, can you see the screen?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
It
So
actually came in with this fanfare flare thing.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know what was going on. Okay. So the title of our conversation today, what we're going to talk about is how to step fully into God's plan for our business. One of the reasons that I selected this particular topic is because a lot of people have said to me over the years that I overwhelm them when it comes to vision and provision for their business. That's not my intention at all. What I do feel really, really strongly about is that every gift that we have is a God-given gift. And I think that God calls us to move in faith towards the vision that we've been given, because we all believe that all of us have a purpose. But what I also want you to know is that we all have different gifts, talents, strengths, abilities, and the lessons that we've learned from our life experiences. So therefore, when we go to implement something, it's going to look different based upon your willingness, right, to step out of your fear into faith. So anything that I say here, please understand it's a tool for you to use. I'm inviting you to use it. If it's something that you can use, apply it. And if it's something that doesn't resonate with you, let it go, because we're not here to convince you of anything. So the first thing I want to do is welcome you. And I really want to thank you for your time. Now, I'm really, really big on strategy. I mean, really, really big. I think that every vision begins with having a clear understanding that you have to write the vision and make it plain. What I see far too often with a lot of female entrepreneurs specifically, because that's who I work with, is that we have a tendency to just kind of roll out of the bed and then take action, not necessarily strategic action. So the first thing is, I think we have to sit down and decide, what's the vision? What are we working towards? What are we working towards? And then we have to think about, underneath that overarching vision are a set of goals. Now, when we think about goals, it's very masculine, right? It's very masculine. It feels heavy. And it feels like, oh, I have to have a goal. I have to decide this year how much money I want to make in my business. I have to decide this year how I want to make the money. I have to decide this year who I want to work and play with. I have to decide this year, when am I going to take vacation? You know, who am I going to hire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all types of goals, large and small. But at the end of the day, there's a goal that's going to help you to reach your overarching vision. And we don't jump from kindergarten to 12th grade. There are steps, right? Even in the Bible, it says that the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. So we have to begin to think about, from a tactical perspective, how are we going to put things into play so that we can actually implement, take action, if you will, on moving our goals forward, so that, say, for example, 6 months from now, 6 years from now, 60 years from now, right, based upon your age, what's going to be the legacy that you live? I can tell you for myself that I believe that your actions today are creating your tomorrow. So it really is a choice in terms of how you want to run your business, but it's a lot easier if you kind of look at this strategic pyramid and then begin to, in your notebook, write down, you know, your vision, and then break it down. And then if you feel stuck or you feeling overwhelmed, pray about it, you know, or create a vision board. You know, sometimes you can talk, if you're married, you can talk to your spouse about it. If you're not married, you can talk to your parents or your children or your best friend about it. But more than anything, before you hire a coach, you really want to know what you want. You really want to get crystal clear. Now, in business, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about, I'm ready to go to market, right? I'm ready to rock and roll. But before you get into what you what you sell, how you're going to reach your people, who are you specifically selling to, and where are you going to promote yourself. I left the, what do you call that, Karen? Was it lorem epsilon text here, so that you can kind of shape that conversation in an overview sort of way. But what I need you to know before you go to market, leadership is required. So that means you have to stand up, you have to suit up, you have to put on the full armor of God, and you have to go out into the world trusting that the Holy Spirit is moving through you to do the work in the world. Okay? And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to get clear about bridging the gap. Now, there's where you are right now, and there's a point where you desire to be. So I'm going to use dollars and cents because I'm a revenue strategist. So that might make some people, a little bit uncomfortable, but I need to come from a very honest place and tell you, without a profit, you're not in business. So unless you're a nonprofit, you're going to need money to run your business. And even if you are a nonprofit, you're going to need money. If it's not your money, you're going to need somebody else's money. So money is required to own and operate a business, and you're going to have to get clear about, from where you are today, how much money is required to get you from point A to point B, right? And in the lives of your clients, how are you going to bridge the gap from where they are to where they want to be? This is going to require you to sit down and think about it. These are not things that you just kind of say, oh, I guess. These are things that really you're going to have to get in tune and in touch with your own desires, and in tune and in touch with the desires of your ideal client, which we're going to go deeper into. When I think about a paradigm of possibility in the NACWE group, one of the things that I mentioned was that one of my favorite scriptures is about going in and possessing the land. And what I can tell you is that possession does not mean renting. Possession means ownership. It means owning your gifts, your talents, your strengths, your abilities, the lessons that you've learned from your life experiences or your work experiences. It's owning your voice. It's owning your power, right? We are created in the image and likeness of God, and we have to act accordingly. And sometimes that's easier said than done. And I know for myself, there have been many, many times where I had like a natural God-given gift, and I almost was ashamed to say to somebody, I didn't go to school for this. It's just, it's a gift. It's a spiritual gift that's given to me. But the truth is, we all have those gifts. And so I want you to begin to expand your paradigm of possibility, not your vision, because I think the reason why so many businesses are small is because we look at everything through us, right? And even in the Bible, it says, not by my might or by my power, but by the Spirit of the Lord. So what do you think it's going to take to double your income this year, to triple your income next year, and then the following year in 2020 to quadruple your income? So often what we think is that it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult. And this kind of reminds me, years ago, I think, I don't know, I'm 53 this year, so maybe I was like 10 or 11 years old the very first time I ever heard the story of Samson. And I remember that, Samson was in the wine press when the Lord said, "You are a mighty man of valor." And it was like, me? Now, you couldn't be talking about me. I think we all are like that, right? In different ways. We think only about our strength, about our ability. And we are so much more than that. And the thing that I really try to impress upon my clients is, just because we don't know how necessarily to activate the Holy Spirit within us doesn't mean that the Holy Spirit is not there. It means that we have to get, once again, in tune and in touch with our gifts, and we have to know who the ideal client is in order to propel ourselves and our businesses forward. I believe that at all times, we have to be a light in a dark place. And that's really going to begin with understanding, as a woman, right? We have been so socially conditioned that we are seen and not heard, that we don't realize that we have to make decisions This is not a marriage, right? Where, depending upon what religion, like what do you call it, denomination within Christianity you belong to. Like I grew up in a house where my father made all of the decisions, right? But he raised us to be independent and self-sufficient and to be decisive because he was in the military. So it was kind of different, right? It's kind of contradictory in a lot of ways. There's a lot of complexities there in the human psyche. In his relationship with my mother, he was head of household, he handled everything, but yet he expected his daughters to be independent and self-sufficient. So that sounds like a disconnect, but he didn't want us to be taken advantage of. So I'm the eldest of four, so I was always taught leadership, always from a very young age. And I was taught that if you make a bad decision, that's okay, make another decision. So we're going to have to make decisions as entrepreneurs. We're going to have to think about, in order to grow our business, there's lots of little decisions that have to be made. You have to begin to think about what you really want. And when I say what you really want, this is the best way that I can communicate this so that you kind of sit with it and settle into it. Every part of your business you're not going to like. I can tell you that right now. Everything is not going to bring you joy. Everything is not going to be your skill set or nor your desire. So we have to learn how to delegate. We have to learn how to negotiate. And we have to learn how to clarify what specifically are my strengths so that I don't spend a lot of time spinning in and out of weaknesses. And so with that being said, I got to put my glasses on here. What I want you to recognize is that I want you to begin to think about, in what area of your life do you need more spaciousness, right? So that you can experience freedom. Does that mean that right now, for example, if you're in individual coaching, do you need to bring in group coaching? Do you need to bring in retreats? Do you need to create physical, tangible products? Do you need to create an app? What's going to bring you more spaciousness and more quiet? Okay. Do you need to time block out time to write your blog posts or to create your your graphics? What do you need to do in the area of your personal power? Are there some things that have you been giving away your power? Have you been afraid to ask for what you want? Have you been afraid to fire some clients? Have you been afraid to really own your gift and you kind of, like shrink and play small? What are the decisions that you need to make so that you can stand in your power and speak your truth? As it relates to beauty, if you know that your favorite color, for example, is purple, then why is your brand in more masculine colors, like the colors of Google or Yahoo or, those type of brands, very primary blues and reds? How can you show your own beauty? How can you show your own sense of style? If you know that you're a person who loves calligraphy, do you have a script font for your brand? Do you have customized notes that you can send out, handwritten notes? When it comes to profitability, do you need to earn more money? Do you need to bring in more active and passive revenue streams? What's going to fulfill you creatively? Do you need to infuse art, music, photography, sculpture, dance? What do you need to do to fuel your creative passion? As it relates specifically to your connections, do you need to let some people go? Do you have some people in your life who are toxic and they are overwhelming you? They're completely, please forgive me, I thought I turned my phone off. They're completely and totally overwhelming you, and they make you feel as though your dreams are too big, or how sometimes people will say stuff like, you're too big for your britches, or you have champagne taste on a beer budget. I mean, we all have people who feel that they can kind of like nick at us and tear you down. Do you need to let go of some of those people? Do you, in terms of increasing your impact, do you need to begin to have a podcast or a video series? Do you need to start interviewing people? Is it time for you to get on TV and radio? What do you need to network in a place where there's a larger audience? Do you want to begin to run around and do a speaking tour? 2 years ago, I challenged myself to do 100 speaking engagements. I did 74, and I was shocked. I was shocked at how much easier it was than what I thought. And then 5 years ago, I challenged myself to do 100 podcasts. I ended up doing 86 of them. It was like a lot easier than I thought. But what it did was it helped me to get over my fear of being seen, my fear of being known, my fear of people misunderstanding me, and I perhaps might have to explain myself. What do you need to do as it relates to inner fulfillment? Do you need to begin to put on your calendar days off? I mean, so many of us work around the clock. So you have to time block out vacations, days off. Maybe you have to block out dates with your family. Maybe you need to time block, time to write, or time to draw, time to sing, time to dance. Whatever it is, it's time for you to start making the decisions that you need to make that are going to help you to create a life and a business that you love. I can't tell you specifically what to do in those areas because you know what's best for you. What I can tell you is that when it comes to goals, they have to be smart. They have to be smart. They have to be specific. You have to use clarity, brevity, and authority. They have to be specific. You don't want to say things like, I want to earn a lot of money this year. It needs to be specific. $1 million companies just don't happen. These big companies where they're making $1 million or $1 billion, they actually plan the revenue. Sometimes they surpass their goals and sometimes they don't quite meet their goals, but they make a decision. They say, this quarter, I would like to earn $100,000. And then you break that down into even more specific. I'm going to need X number of clients. I'm going to have to sell X number of units. I'm going to have to do X number of presentations. So get very, very specific. Also, your goals need to be measurable. So often on our website, we have autoresponders, and we never take the time to see how many people, when they came to the home page, clicked the link. And then from clicking that link, how many of those people then went on to purchase a product or service or enroll in one of your live experiences? We've got to begin to measure. If you're on Facebook all day or Instagram, Pinterest, basically, like I had an old client who she would, oh my gosh, she would always try to beat me across the face with how she had almost 1 million people following her on Facebook. And, this is when I go through these periods where I don't want to hurt people's feelings and I try to be timid. And she got on my nerves because every time I turned around, she was like, I have 1 million people following me. And then one day I just, she caught me on the wrong day. And I said, so how many of those people have bought something from you? So that was my smackdown. So don't do what I do. Don't wait until you just get mad and then you smack people down. But the minute that I said that, she never said it to me again because not one of those 1 million people had purchased a book, a tape, a DVD, a CD, anything. So numbers, how many people follow you, how many fans you have, that's completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. Some people like to use ego, right? And they say, oh, I have all these people following me. But I'm telling you right now, that's not a unit of measurement. In business, the unit of measurement is how many referrals are you receiving? How many customer appointments do you have? How many of those people converted? Those types of things. So I want you to really get clear about keeping your eyes on your numbers and really understanding what you need to measure. I also think that sometimes we forget to put achievable goals. Sometimes I know in my own life, there's been many, many times where I literally was shooting for the curb and hitting the street, or I was stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. It's easy to make $100,000 a year. If you're on this call and you're a coach, consultant, speaker, trainer, making $100,000 a year is really, really easy. It just kind of boils down to, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a home study program, a group coaching program, an individual coaching program? Do you want to take people on retreats? Do you want to have a mastermind? in what way do you want to work with people? You have two choices. You can either create low dollar products and then you have to sell more of them, or you can create a higher dollar product where you're selling less of them. I mean, it's really, at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? But there's also the opportunity for you to begin to look at recurring revenue. Recurring revenue. I think far too often as women, we underestimate our ability to connect with people heart to heart, soul to soul. We forget that. And we forget that as women, we've been given the gift of intuition. We can look at our clients and say, you know what, when this person came to me, so I'll use myself so you'll see what I mean. So recently I hired a personal trainer. And the personal trainer, it's a very smart lady. She basically said, okay, this person is coming to me because they want to lose weight. So the service that I provide is personal training service. However, what does this person also need? This person needs a class on how to read food labels. This person needs a trip to the grocery store to learn how to pick out healthy and nutritious foods. This person needs some type of information about, sugars and carbs and fats, because maybe they don't even understand that. Maybe this person needs to know how to measure their food. All sorts of ancillary things. Well, it's the same way in our business. So if you look at the problem that your client has, you write down the problem, and then you write down, to the side, you go a little bit deeper. So for example, if somebody comes to you and they say, I need more clients, right? That's a common thing. I need more clients. I need to earn more money. You wouldn't just say, okay, and then take that person on as a client. You dig a little bit deeper. Do they have a problem attracting clients? Right? Do they need a marketing strategy? Do they attract a whole bunch of people, but they don't know how to convert them? So do they need to change their conversation so that they can actually close a sale? Or do they have a problem giving away for free what they deserve to be compensated for? Maybe they need conversations and coaching in the area of worth and self-confidence. So we've got to dig a little bit deeper so that our goals can actually be achievable, asking lots of questions. That your best tool is a powerful question. And then also, I think we have to begin to look at relevancy. I know for myself, this was a hard pill for me to swallow because, what you might think is relevant is not relevant at all in the eyes of a customer. Before this call, Karen and I were having a conversation about ideal clients. And I was telling her that, so many people that I've worked with over the years, they're like, I'm sick and tired of you talking to me, sick and tired of you talking to me about the ideal client. And then when I would say to them, the ideal client, if you don't know who that person is and you don't know everything about them, that's going to impact your income. I mean, it just simply is. And it's going to impact your income. It can impact it negatively and it can impact it positively. So when I say relevant, I'm talking about relevant to the ideal client. Relevant to the ideal client. There's a lot of different ways to teach something. I know for me, I would have people say to me, you're so serious, so I'm not ready to work with you because I know that you're going to kick my butt or something like this. Or you heard Kieran say in the beginning, it could be painful, but it could also be worthwhile. My intention is not for anything, right, to be painful. But what I will say is that I wish earlier in my career, I would have given more thought to how can I make, say, something that's really difficult, pleasurable? How can I bring more joy, more laughter, more play into my brand? I didn't know how to do that because, like I said earlier, I grew up in a military household. So there are lessons that you're going to learn along the way about yourself. Entrepreneurship is the greatest personal development course in the world, but entrepreneurship is also an opportunity for you not only to solve your clients' problems, but to heal yourself. Okay? So, and then the last thing, we got to begin to look at the time that something takes. I think there's this wonderful quote, and now I can't remember who said it, but it says, we overestimate what can be done in a day and underestimate what can be done in a year. That's very, very true. When you come from a background where you're constantly spinning in perfectionism, proving, procrastination, people pleasing, you will find yourself, if it's not right the first, second, or third time, kind of giving up instead of recognizing that falling and failing forward is actually how things work. That's how they work. Failure is a part of that process. And what I can tell you from my own personal experience is that the sooner you fail forward, the faster your business will grow. Because if you're avoiding losing money, losing time, losing energy, losing relationships, you literally delay the inevitable, and you're not able to grow your business to the degree that you actually could. The business model canvas is the game changer. This is the foundation of every client conversation. What I can tell you is this is the thing that brings a lot of women, specifically, anxiety, because it's a structure. Now, here's what I will say to you. I believe that we are all masculine and feminine. And I believe that from a feminine perspective, it's lovely to be creative and adventurous and, intuitive and, kind of like nature, right? All over the place and in variety. But we also need structure, right? We also need structure. And when you begin to look at your business, each block of the business model canvas allows you creativity. So you're not going to have to turn into a man. A lot of times women see this and they kind of freak out because they think, oh, you want me to be like a man? I'm not a man. No, I don't. What I want you to do is be creative inside of each box. And I also want you to recognize that a business is a unit. It's a structure, okay? It starts with being in the middle, the value proposition. You have to be crystal clear about the value that you bring to the table. You have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is what I'm good at. And you have to be willing to say that. And if you're like me, based upon the denomination, I grew up strict Southern Baptist. So it was like, you should never brag on yourself. Well, I'm not talking about bragging on yourself, but I am saying you have to be able to say, yes, I'm good at that. Because if you don't, you're a secret agent and nobody's going to know that you're good at that. So you have to be able to say, this is what I'm good at. This is how I can help you. This is the transformational benefit as a result of working with me. You have to be able to communicate that if you want your business to be sustainable and successful. Then you move over to the far right and you look at your client segment. Far too many people spin into people pleasing, right? Because I've been there. Okay, I've been there. So we spin into people pleasing, and what we end up doing is we try to be all things to all people. The truth is, you're going to make a lot more money if you're an expert. So kind of think about an oral surgeon versus a dentist versus somebody who knows how to clean teeth. If you had a major problem, you wouldn't say, meet me in the parking lot and perform dental surgery. You want a specialist. You want someone who has an office, who has the right equipment, who has the education, who has the expertise to solve your problem. It's the same way with you. When people come to you, they want an expert. So whether it's subject matter expertise plus the lessons that you've learned from your life and your business, expertise is required. So that means that you're going to have to grow yourself in order to grow your business so that you can communicate with this ideal client about the value that you bring. And then you want to begin to look at the channels. Where are these people online and offline? Where can they be found? And you have to go where they are. And then you have to look at your relationship. Once you find the people, what type of relationship do you want to have with them? There are a lot of people, I actually am introverted, not extroverted. And a lot of people are surprised to hear that. But I'm actually an introvert. So for example, I don't do networking meetings unless I'm the speaker. some people think, oh, that's so arrogant. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Being in a room surrounded by a whole bunch of people freaks me out unless I'm in the mood for it. So you have to think about for yourself what really honors you. If you are a person who thrives in crowds, then what I can tell you is that you want to speak a lot. You want to run around and you want to speak a lot. So remember when I said earlier, I ran around, I did a lot of speaking. I did a lot of speaking because the coach that I had at the time told me that speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. And she was right. But because I was an introvert, I was freaked out. So I had to put myself out there as a challenge to say, I'm going to do 100 speaking engagements in 1 year. So you might want to challenge yourself that way. You know, how do you want to meet your people? If you know that you cannot, for example, if you know I cannot deal with a whole bunch of people, then maybe you want your business to be solely online. Maybe you want to have an academy. You know, perhaps you want to have a membership group or you want to have a team of licensed facilitators. The sky is the limit. I mean, it's really up to you what you want to do. And then when you look at key activities, if you are a recovering perfectionist, what I can tell you is that your personal key activity, every single day is to look at meeting customers and building relationships. Everything else in your business is administrative in nature and it needs to be done by somebody else. So you have to write down the list of activities, right, that are required to own and operate your business. And you also have to look at the resources that are required. Your resources could be people resources, they could be financial, they could be physical. You know, you have to, or they could be like, what do you call it? You know, like your computer equipment, you know, things like your building, your leases. What are the resources, the technological, the physical, the financial resources that you need to own and operate your business? And then you have to look at your key partners. You have people that work with you internally, in-house, whether it's a vendor, a sponsor, an affiliate partner, you know, or your own team members, graphic designer, web designer, illustrator, copywriter, editor, etc. And then you have external resources, you know. And so an external resource, I'm sorry, I just grouped them into the internal, but the affiliate, the JV partner, the sponsor, the exhibitor, those are like external resources. Another example of external resources might be your stylist or your hairdresser, you know, you're a nanny or your chef, your maid, your landscaper. There's lots and lots of people that you need to support you in growing your business. Another thing I see a lot of women kind of skip over is the bottom part of this canvas. They want to know how much money they make, but they don't want to organize that money into a spreadsheet, and they don't want to look at the cost to run a business. What I see a lot of women doing, which is very, very dangerous, is putting out there the lowest price because they think nobody's going to pay this. The problem with building your business based upon price is that you haven't taken into consideration the cost of what it's going to take to service that client. And the costs come in many, many forms. And you are not a Jill of all trades. You can't be all things to all people. So you've got to give yourself permission to calculate the costs. Now, I said to you earlier that one of the problems that I had in the beginning of my business was owning my gift. Anything that's a God-given gift, you're scared to charge for because you think, oh, God's going to punish me because he gave me the gift. I should be giving it to other people. That's how you spin into people pleasing and perfectionism. And what I can tell you is that you've got to get really, really clear about the value of the gift, because it even says in the Bible that a laborer is worthy of his hire. So we've got to get clear about, we're in business, ladies. We're in business. I don't want to go over my time, so I'm going to kind of go through these. One of the things that I think that we also, we're terrified of selling because we think it's going to be some icky thing where we're hustling people, you know, using some manipulative sales tactics. I believe that wherever you go, there you are. I believe that you have to look at your, hold on, Karen, I didn't see that, honey. Show me that again.
It was just me organizing my notes.
Oh, I thought you were
Sorry.
showing me a timer.
Oh,
I'm
no.
sorry. Okay. I see the time now at the bottom of my screen. Pardon me. Um, One of the things that I think that we don't understand is that wherever we go, there we are, and everything is rooted in intention. So if you really believe, I mean, this is where belief is going to have to come in. If you believe that God gave you a purpose, a mission, and a vision, and God has called you to serve people in such and such a way, then you also have to believe somewhere, even if it's a sliver of hope, right? That God will give the provision for the vision, even if it's just a mustard seed of faith. But when you approach people, the reason that people say no, the reason that you experience rejection, it could be a variety of reasons, but the main reason is either because they don't need it, or the way you communicated it was in a way where they said, I don't need that. So, for example, if you are a person who's selling a coaching program, if your conversation is shaped around what's in it for you, you're automatically going to get a no. People want to know, everybody. I mean, I don't care who you are. We just have to tell the truth about it. We're dialed into the radio station WIIFM. What's in it for me? People don't care that you got to pay your house payment, your car payment, you have a sick child, a sick mom, or whatever your situation is. They don't care. They want to know, what's in it for me? How is this going to benefit me? So when you are selling someone something, it starts with clarity surrounding what's in it for them. What's in it for them? The more clear you are on what's in it for the client, the easier it is to have the conversation. Now, you'll hear a lot of people say, I can't afford it. That's a number one objection, which means you're going to have to practice in the mirror handling objections, right? And that doesn't mean you have to talk people into stuff or you go and take an NLP course or some other type of hypnotic class. It simply means that you learn how to handle the objection by asking the very direct questions. In the very, very beginning of my business, I used to be terrified. Oh my God, terrified of asking more questions. Once the person said no, I would say, okay, and leave it right there. And then one day I was talking to someone who I knew that this person needed the solution that I was providing. So it just so happened, that I was listening very, very carefully. And I said to this woman, I said, so let me understand. If I had a payment plan, you would say yes? And she said, yes, I can't do a full pay. And I thought to myself, well, why didn't she just say that? Why'd I have to dig this out of her? And then I realized, because that's my job. It's my job to ask questions. It's my job to listen. It's my job to sit down and anticipate where all the gaps are in understanding, the solution that I bring to the table. That's my responsibility. So if you want to sell a solution, you really want to get crystal clear about what does the client perceive as their need, not what you want, what they want and what they need. And another little tip, because need is a tricky word, because some people will say nobody needs a designer bag, or nobody needs a luxury car, or no one needs $1 million house, no one needs a fur coat. Depends on who you're talking to. If you're in a cold weather environment, or you perceive that you're cold, you feel like you need a mink coat. I don't, but some people do, right? If you feel like, you're getting older and you're kind of freaking out about age, in your mind, you might perceive that you need a sports car. It's not my opinion that matters about whether you need it or not. It's, if that's your desire, why am I denying you something that you desire? So we have to really get in touch with understanding our ideal clients. And I also think that we need to look at the risk. So many people, don't take the time to think about what does the client perceive as a risk. It's kind of like, if you've ever invested in a coaching program and then that person didn't deliver on whatever said they were going to deliver, and now you've lost your money, that's a risk. Nobody wants to lose time, money, or energy. Nobody. So what are the risks that that person perceives? That's going to, the more you can mitigate those risks, the easier the sell is going to be. And then also we have to get really, really clear about the solution. I believe that entrepreneurship is all about solving problems. And earlier I said to you that far too many people, especially women, we spin into people pleasing and we try to be all things to all people. Hold on. There's a specific thing that I want to say here in my notes. Okay. So I wrote this down and I wanted to make sure that I said this a certain way. We're here to grow, to evolve, and to achieve mastery in the things that matter most to us. And those things include who we're being, who we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. And so the easiest thing that I can tell you to do if you want to grow your business is you're going to need to niche down and specialize. You're really going to have to sharpen your skill set. You're going to have to improve your writing skills as well as your communication skills. It's very important. Those are the two skills, writing and speaking, you're going to really have to strengthen if you want to open minds and change hearts. Okay. So here's our slide. Karen, you knew it was coming, right? So ideal buyer client. If you want to grow your business, you really want to cultivate buyer empathy. And what you want is you want to get really clear about the things that your people say and do. So I prepared a little note. I'll put this inside of the group because it was too long for me to put in a slide. I didn't want you to be bombarded with a lot of text. So I'll put this in the group. But I want you to imagine what your people say and do in both publicly and privately. Okay? Let's keep it real. We behave one way publicly and we behave a totally different way privately. Totally different. And we're complex human beings. So if we don't understand the difference, I was talking to someone and she was talking to me about unity, harmony, leadership. And she asked me the question, do I believe that all men are created equal? This was a previous coach. And I said, I do. And she said, well, here's the thing. That's an ideal that we all subscribe to. But in reality, in this society that we live in, there's in every single relationship, there's always a person who's the dominant and someone who's the subordinate. And if you don't know which role you play in your relationships, you can easily lose your footing with your personal power. So, for example, I said earlier, we have to learn how to ask for what we want. So a lot of women will say to me, I don't have a problem asking for what I want. So I'll say to them, okay, so if you were going to do a capital raise and you needed money to grow your business, they say, oh no, I can ask this person, but I can ask this person for this, but I can't ask them for that. I would ask so-and-so for this, but I wouldn't ask them for that. That's what we're talking about. That's powerlessness. So the minute that you have to tweak your personality based upon who you're dealing with, you're moving in and out of power. So the words that you say and your actions now have become incongruent. I want you to know that our job as Christians is to be congruent, to align both our words and our actions to the word. That's what we're ascribing to. We're not there yet. That's where we're trying to get to, right? Same thing with frustrations. We have to tell the truth about our frustrations, right? Some people are impatient. Some people worry a lot. Some people complain a lot. we have to begin to, instead of criticizing people or judging them, because we certainly, it's like Mother Teresa said, you can't help people if you're judging them. This is where empathy comes in. So what are the frustrations and the concerns of your ideal client? Also, what motivates your people? Is it fear? Is it love? Is it money? Is it, you know, fame, beauty? What motivates them? People are motivated by different things. And so some people will say, oh, I'm not motivated by money at all. Well, if you're a single parent and you don't know how you're going to pay for food, clothing, and shelter, money might be a motivation. Or even if you're married and your spouse is either ill or has passed on, money might be a motivation. It's not necessarily negative. It's just good to be honest about where you are. Also, you have to look at, from a sight perspective, what do your clients see? You know, I'm sure you've all heard that quote that says, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So you'll hear people say a glass is half empty, a glass is half full. I mean, there's stuff in the glass. So it's all, you know, operative. So we've got to get clear about that. When we look at sound, what are your clients listening to? Are they listening to the voices of people who are inspiring them? Or are they listening to the voices of the naysayers? Are they listening to other people more than they're listening to themselves? Are they saying yes to things that they wish they would have said no to? And then, so when they start working with you, they're questioning everything that you say because they have somebody else in their ear telling them something contrary. And then finally, what do they think and feel? You know, there's what they feel right now, and then there's the way they want to feel. What's the gap between the two? Which leads me into how to tie your value proposition in. People buy transformation, people buy feelings. That was a hard lesson for me. Hard lesson. So if I could wave a magic wand and really tell each of you to really hone in on that, that is the truth of the truth. People buy transformation. There's a point where a person becomes sick and tired of whatever it is, and they want change. The thing is, they don't want to experience the change. They kind of want a seamless, snap your finger, magical moment, right? But the truth is, to lose 20 pounds or 100 pounds, your body's going to be sore. I mean, there's no way for anybody to avoid all that. But if you notice in all weight loss ads, all they do is show the people with their six-pack abs, right? And their beautiful bodies wearing beautiful clothes. They don't show anybody sweating and their face red and them freaking out. They don't show all of that. But that's a part of the experience. So you've got to sit down and look at, you know, what are your clients feeling right now? What are their core desire feelings? You know, what are the tangible and intangible benefits that you provide? Are they going to earn more money? Are they going to be able to save more money? You know, and then from a spiritual, you know, place, how can you, you know, help them really see, without telling them you're a Christian, how can you help them see the love of God dwelling within you? Now, for those of you who know me, you know that my brand is called 50 Shades of Paid. I believe in active and passive income. I believe that as women specifically, that God has gifted us with the gift of connection, conversation. We can talk, right? We can talk a lot, okay? You know, I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Intuition. I mean, even in the Bible, it says that he called for the wailing women of God, because we can hear God's voice. That's why we see more women sometimes in church than men, you know? I also believe that we have insights into things sometimes that we can't really explain. And of course, we know how to work well together in collaborative efforts, as well as shaping community. It is a well-known fact, you don't need me to tell you this, that most of the nonprofits are started by women but funded by men. It is also a well-known fact that half of the population of this earth is women, and they are impoverished. So my business is designed, and my conversation is designed to attune to the natural gifts of the woman. So that means that, and by the way, what you see on the screen, all of these models, there can be a mix and match. It's not just a one stroke thing, okay? You can be a writer or an author, and you can, create digital and physical information products, whether that's books, tapes, DVDs, CDs, whatever. You're a publisher, okay? Publishing also includes, by the way, podcast and your TV shows or radio shows, right? A coaching consulting centric model. This is your opportunity to share your expertise through coaching, through masterminds, through VIP day experience, all sorts of things where you are sharing your wisdom. Also, it could be speaking centric. This is where you can speak online, like we're doing right now in a webinar type of setting, or teleseminars, or some type of virtual conference, or you can go offline. You can have boot camps, seminars, conferences, trade shows, all sorts of live gatherings with your people. What I can also tell you is the sooner you bring your people offline, the more money you'll make, because people behave differently online than they do offline. Nobody wants to admit that, but that's the truth. When people are online, everybody looks the same. So people can do this and they can act like you're a dog doing tricks and do this trick and jump through this hoop and do all this other stuff. But in person, people don't do that. They're more honest, and they're more apt to say, I really need your help with this, instead of posturing as if, you owe them something, right? And you also want to look at, you're in NACWE. So NACWE is an association. You can create your own association or your own membership program. And that's a continuity where you're going to have that recurring revenue while at the same time building community. And then you want to look at training-centric models. You really want to look at, instead of constantly creating massive amounts of content, how can you begin to create courses that can go into an online or offline academy? Sometimes people get them certified through the state. You can submit some of your courses sometimes to an association or a governmental agency, where for continuing education units, the sky's the limit. You can license your content to organizations, to corporations, to nonprofits. And of course, you can have a certification type of program where you create licensed facilitators. I'm just going to say to you, you got to know your numbers. And Karen, before you give them the PDF, I got to change. I didn't realize I spelled expenses wrong. You got to know your numbers, ladies. You got to know your numbers. You just have to, just point blank. This is not something you want to pass on to anybody else. You have to sit down and look at the math. And in entrepreneurship, we're not talking about difficult math. I'm not asking you to be an accountant. I'm asking you to know your own numbers so that you can be a good steward of your financial resources. You want to know what everything costs so that you can calculate accurate costs and accurate revenue. You also, every time you create any product or service, you want to look at the marketing expenses for every single campaign. And you want to know how much time it's going to take, how much money it's going to take. What are the resources? It goes back to the business model canvas. What are your resources? You have to know these things, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a whirlpool of trouble. You want to know your key marketing metrics. Not only do you want to know how much money, but like I was saying earlier, you want to look at your clicks. You want to look at the money you're making per customer. How many press releases, how many testimonials, how many items sold. You want to get really clear. If you don't know the risk, I just had a client who has a retail store that she was in the middle of rehabbing before the hurricane came. And she lost her whole store. And she never in a million years thought that was going to happen to her. And we had been having this conversation for many, many years about the importance of her creating an online component to her store, and she hadn't done it. So, it's heartbreaking, but we have to look at the risk. We have to look at the risk. My father used to say, a hard head makes a soft butt. It's not a pretty comment, but it's true. And sometimes when you don't take the time to look at what's the worst case scenario and how you can prepare for it, it's kind of an ostrich moment, right? once again, you need to know your profit and loss, and you need to take into consideration that everything is not going to be a win. There are going to be clients that are not going to pay you on time. There are going to be clients who don't pay at all, right? There are going to be vendors that you pay who don't deliver what they're supposed to deliver. There's just all sorts of losses that can happen. In my particular case, my virtual assistant many years ago passed away suddenly. And my whole business took a huge tumble because I put everything into her hands. She had a team of 20 people. And when she died, she didn't have a second in command. And I had no idea what she was doing. And so, it spun me downward. So you don't want to have like any person who can, if that person is gone, can really affect your business negatively. If you do not do the things that we're talking about today, I don't want to be the voice of gloom and doom, but it's kind of like a revelation moment. You're either going to sell your business in a positive way, right? You can take your company public in a positive way, but in a negative way, you might have to walk away or have a liquidation and go on a business sale, or you might go into bankruptcy. You're a leader. You've been gifted with a vision, right? There's responsibilities there. You have to be responsible. You have to be accountable. And so then, just as a quick recap, the business model, the more in tune you are with this document, the more joy you're actually going to find in your business. You're going to get a copy of this presentation, so you're going to be able to tap into these questions. But what I'm going to say to you is this: no matter how painful you think it might be, really take the time to study this document. It has saved me a lot of time, money, energy, and it's also made me a lot of money. And it's also helped me to get really clear about who I want to work with and who I don't, and how I want to work with people, And then finally, you can visit me at kadenatate.com. My contact information is all here. And, I want to thank you for your time, and whatever questions you have, feel free to put them into the Facebook group.
Well, yeah, Kadena, thank you so much. I mean, even though I've been through this with you before, I still found myself getting clarity. But y'all, before some of you came on the call, I told a story about being at a retreat with Kadena and feeling like I was very resistant. And she said she didn't see it that way because, I still worked through the program and I worked through that business model canvas, those 9 steps. And I found it a real challenge to do. I would suggest that you, when we give you the slides, that you take those slides, especially the one, I'm so glad you put it at the end with all the questions on there, because we need that. And just don't overthink it like I do, but just try to walk your way through it. When I did that, it narrowed it really clarified what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do, and it really narrowed my focus. I felt like I stopped spinning my wheels quite so much. I still am that way. I want more, and I'm into 5 different things at a time, and I know I need to remind myself to focus and that sort of thing. But that business model canvas will walk you through. It'll change the picture for you of everything that you're getting ready to do. And then I would say to you, I did ask Kadena, she has 3 coaching programs, and I wanted you to tell them a little bit about cultivating courage just before we go. And I'm going to put that.
Okay. So remember when I was saying that, the more you work with your canvas and the more you work with your ideal client, you're going to be able to really flesh out what honors your natural God-given gifts. Like I told you, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So it's really easy for me to spin into overgiving. So one of the things that I realized that I was doing in my business was I had way too many individual coaching clients, way too many. And so I decided that what I would do, I would have these people walk up to me and they would say, "Oh, I'd love to work with you, but you're so expensive." So I said, okay, I can create a group coaching program, but I wanted something where, so I'm going to be very specific when I say this. So those of you who have any issue as it relates to people pleasing, proving, and perfectionism, you'll get it. When you are a perfectionist, you really don't know what you're supposed to do every day. Under key activities, you think you're supposed to do everything. That's the little secret that nobody tells you. That's the reason why you're so scattered, right? Because you think I'm supposed to be doing everything. So I created Cultivating Courage because I needed to break down the 3 things you're absolutely supposed to be doing. And the first is walking the path of power, how to ask for what you want without guilt, shame, and embarrassment, and receive it. Because sometimes we ask God to bless us, but then when the blessing comes, it doesn't look like what we wanted it to look like. So we're like, no, right? We get a really ugly client and we freak out. Why did you send this person to me? Well, he sent that person so that you would learn how to put the pieces into your business that make you run a business like a business. Maybe you're not using a contract, right? Maybe you're giving away things and you need a scope of business. So the first month, it's a 100-day program. The first month is geared towards walking the path of power. The second month is celebrating your creativity. What I saw was all these women would be coming to me and they would say, I want a brand like so-and-so. And when I would say to them, God created you to be you, not to be a copycat of somebody else. Authenticity has no competition. But what I needed was a tool to be able to help them see these are my creative gifts and this is how I weave them into my business so that my business doesn't look like somebody else's business. My business model doesn't look like somebody else's business model. Apple doesn't look anything at all like Microsoft, right? So we've got to get really, really clear about how we're different than other people, because that's what's going to help you stand out in the marketplace. When you look the same, people don't buy from you. And then the third month is all about creating money with ease and grace. I used to feel tremendously guilty about creating money, and I had lots of people to remind me, right, that the Lord didn't give you this money so that you could buy a new house and a new car and all this stuff. And so I needed to learn how to earn money in a way that, number one, it honored me. I also have a daughter who has a nonprofit that I fund. And I also take care of my mom. So I needed to earn money in a way where I don't have to explain to somebody else why I'm earning a certain dollar amount or not earning a certain dollar amount. Okay. So it's not about earning 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. It's about getting really, really clear about how much money do you need to own and operate your business so that you can still have days off, still have free time, because you don't want a business to consume your life. So that's cultivating courage. And I'm going to tell you, some of you might be thinking, what does courage have to do with it?
Yeah.
It has everything to do with it, because we all talk about faith like all day long, but it takes courage to walk in faith.
Right.
Because even in the scripture, which I cannot believe this, but I just forgot the name of the character, but I always remember the story. Remember when the blind man came to Jesus and Jesus spit in his eye? The very first time I ever read that, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Why couldn't you just do like this or something like that? Why'd you have to spit in his eye? So that let me know right there that when God blesses you, it's going to be like, it's not necessarily going to be this pretty experience. So I will just say to you that we have an opportunity, to cultivate the courage that's needed to walk in our purpose and our power. That's what that program is about. I don't want to talk about the other 2 programs. Okay. Because those really are for a person who already knows me, and because Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Angela, thanks for hanging in to the very end. I know we went over our time, but look for the replay, and thank you for being here. You always have such helpful comments, so I appreciate you being here. All right, we're going to stop the recording.